this in the thumbnail. The conversation is going to be about who should AEW pick up. I would imagine that the majority of the wrestlers that were released by WWE, I would imagine the majority of them would be interested in going to AEW, but AEW is not going to have room for all of the wrestlers that were released. They're only going to be able to take a handful at best. And actually, I thought what could be interesting, and we will get to it, I thought what could be interesting is I've got a list of the wrestlers released. I thought it could be interesting to pick 3. Let's limit ourselves to 3 that can go to AEW. Maybe if we've got time, we could then do 3 that go to Impact. And then the others, you know, hopefully they obviously remain and find work, because I think there's certainly a lot of talent there. I think there's a lot of people that hopefully can find space in the wrestling industry still. But we know that it's hard. We know that there's not room for everybody. And, you know, it's dog eat dog world kind of a situation. So really my thoughts go out to those wrestlers now that find themselves outside of WWE. It is going to be tricky. It is going to be hard. We know that a few of those that got released are no longer in the industry. Billie Kay, someone that I was really high on and I really enjoyed her work. She's no longer in wrestling as far as I know. I think she does like modeling and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. So we'll get to that. I thought it could be fun to just have a look at 3 that could go to AEW, 3 that could go to Impact if we get time. And then, as we said, we are going to break the week down. And actually, we might start with that. We might start with the week. I do want to give it a few moments. I want to wait for a few more people to join us. So we've been getting some fantastic turnout for these Sunday streams. I've always shied away from them because I'm so used to just doing it for a show. Doing it like with no show to watch is kind of a bit, even for me, a bit like daunting in the sense of what are we going to talk about. But this is our 3rd one. We've overrun every week. I would imagine we overrun again this week. My goal is to do an hour. But first week we did an hour and a half. Second week we did an hour and 50 minutes. So, you know, we'll do whatever we end up doing. But yeah, we're going to break the week down. We're going to talk about the week that's coming. We're going to talk about the released wrestlers. We're going to do predictions for No Mercy as well. They're not my final predictions, only because I don't think all the matches have been announced yet. So I'm having to wait for Tuesday so that we know the full card. At the moment for No Mercy, I believe we've got 4 matches announced. 4 matches announced so far. So 4 matches, and even one of those is not finalized. Even one of those, it could still be one of 2 people that get into the match. So we will do predictions for that later. Cuts are to afford Cena, and Rock says, gear bats. Hasib said, should Triple H get heavily criticized for bringing Emma back? He wasted her time and Impact. Hang on. Smudges on the glasses. Let's get back. Hasib said, should Triple H get heavily criticized for bringing Emma back, wasting her time? Impact had big things for her before she left. No, I don't think he should. I think that we don't quite know as to how the decision was made for her to be released. So he brought Emma back when Vince wasn't around. He was on the outside of the company. Steph was the CEO. If you want to criticize Triple H for something, I think you can criticize him for not using Emma enough. I mean, Emma just really didn't get like really much in the way of opportunity. I mean, she did a few little bits and bobs, but I mean, there was just nothing there for her, and I don't know why. I mean, this is the problem. We don't get enough context as to like what actually happened. So Triple H brought her back when Steph was CEO, when Vince was on the outside. By the time Emma's getting let go, it's a different company now to the one that she got brought back into, because now Endeavor are in charge. Now Vince is very much back in the picture. Steph is no longer CEO, so like she's not in the frame anymore. But the wrestling world moves very quick. It moves very quick. And so even the company she came back in is not quite the same company now. So Triple H has brought her back, and I'm sure has said, "Look, let's get you back. I could use your experience. Be great for you helping to put over some talent. We'll get you on TV. We'll find some storylines for you." I doubt that he said to her, "I'm going to make you champ and build the division around you." I always read it as, let's bring Emma back because she's a good hand. She's solid in ring. She's, perfectly fine female to put onto the roster that can just, put over a few people, have some decent matches, whatever, right? I would say if you want to criticize Triple H, criticize him for not using her more. In regards to the releases, we don't know as to who pulled the trigger. Like, was this something that Endeavor sat down with the roster and they went through it? Was Triple H part of that process? Did she come in and underwhelm compared to what Triple H remembered? And so he couldn't invest in her. And so she's ended up being let go. Like, I wouldn't heavily criticize him for giving her the opportunity, because one thing I would say as well is that didn't she get with Riddick Moss, which I don't know that they were together before she came back, but they got together when they were around. They might have been together before. I don't know, but I know that they got married. So she, at the very least, if she didn't meet him there, she at the very least got an opportunity to like be closer with him and work with her partner, get back to WWE. It's a great boost to her brand. I think anytime WWE are going to allow you to come back and get onto TV, that's such a boost for your brand. You're being exposed to a whole new generation of fans again. So she came back, she was exposed to like the kids that maybe didn't watch her when she was around the first time. That's boosted her profile a little bit more. All of a sudden now she's, I would say, a little bit more appealing. She's got a little bit more about her than she did 6 months ago, because she's been on TV in WWE. She's been involved in a few little stories. So I wouldn't say there's heavy criticism there. I would say that, he gave her an opportunity. It didn't work out. We don't know who made the decision to release. We don't know if Triple H was part of that process. And even if he was part of that process, something must have happened that then changed his mind, which would then mean that you have to put a bit of the blame onto Emma, because if Triple H is going to bring Emma back and give her that opportunity and she didn't take that opportunity in his eyes, is that Triple H's fault or is that Emma's fault? So, it's a horrible situation. I'm not a fan of people being released in whilst they've got a contract. I said this on the stream the other day. I think that there's people that praise it because it's business. I mean, I got plenty of comments going, dude, accept it, it's business, right? Obviously, I don't respond to those comments. I'll respond to them here. I think that's a poor way to look at it, because, as I said, these are the people that are fighting on your side. Like, if you want to go after AEW and shoot down their business to make your business stronger, I can sort of understand that. I mean, you've got Pepsi and Coke, you've got Burger King and McDonald's, you've got so many different rivalries in the business world, Apple and Windows and whoever else, right? I get, like, this is how the world works, competition and trying to outdo your competition and all that kind of stuff, right? I get it. But when you're starting to, like, shoot people in your own house, like, that's in your own family, like, that to me is where things get shady, and I don't like it. You offer someone a contract for 5 years, I want to see you honor that contract for 5 years. So the whole thing is just, but again, all these releases happened a few years ago, right? And that was a real rough one because they kept happening, and I think it totaled over 100 releases, right? And it wasn't just one batch. 2 weeks later there'd be a load more. 2 weeks after that there'd be a load more. And I remember, like, I couldn't believe that we were doing this, to be honest. I couldn't believe that we were letting go all of this talent. And people that people loved as well. Bray Wyatt got let go, Braun Strowman got let go, Billy Kay got let go. Like there was loads. Carrion got let go. There was loads of people and big names as well that were being let go. And I said from this point, if you sign with WWE, you have to know what you're getting into. You have to know that your contract, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Anyone from that point, in my mind, because it sent a message to me that the contract you sign in WWE might as well be made out of marshmallows, right? It ain't worth the paper it's written on. It's just it's wobbly. So Emma, when she re-signed, she had to know that, and if she didn't, I've got to say that's on her, because it's happened enough in the past. You should know by now. So it's a really interesting point. It's a really interesting conversation as to, should Triple H in particular be criticized? Should Emma be criticized? Should WWE be? Where does the blame actually lie? It's a really good conversation. For me, it lies with the WWE company. I suppose ultimately it always lies at Vince's door. And Vince is the one that takes the lion's share of the blame, because he's the one that will always be signing these things off. I think if you offer someone a contract, I understand if the business takes a downturn. I understand that then, you might have to make this difficult decision because you're in the process of downsizing. You're not the company you were. And I understand. But I don't think anyone believes that any of these budget changes are genuine, required, needed budget changes. Not when you're coming out and shouting about record profits, record revenue. If they were coming out saying things aren't great at the moment, how shows are down and all that kind of stuff, then maybe we would look at it and say, right, yeah, okay, we understand why they're doing it now. But, you can't come out shouting about record revenue. I mean, like the amount of records they've been shouting about this year. Everything's a record. This has been smashing it. That's been killing it. Biggest Smackdown ever. Biggest arena show ever. Biggest WrestleMania ever. Most viewed. Most social media views. Like, most ticket sales. Biggest gates. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, you're released. It doesn't add up, does it? Doesn't quite add up. Like the question though, Hasib, shout out to you. Ellis Dub said, "What's up? Let's talk some wrestling. Let's go." What we're going to start with is doing just a quick breakdown of the shows this week, so we know what's coming up. I like to do this because it just sort of helps refocus as to where the stories are as well. So with Raw, we've got Drew on Miz TV. Now, obviously, Drew did not help, I believe, Jay in that main event match last week. Jay turned on Judgment Day. Drew could have given him some time and space, could have shook his hand, said you made the right decision. We could have seen just a moment of him just allowing Jay back into the match. Or more likely, Drew could have stood by Jay's sides as the Judgment Day tried to get at Jay. And, more likely, if Drew was a face, it could have been Jay and Drew against the Judgment Day coming up this week. That's not what happened. Drew saw an opportunity to blindside Jay whilst he was distracted, hit a Claymore and got the victory, then didn't return to help him. So obviously everyone's looking at that going, heel turn, heel turn, heel turn. And there's a lot of excitement around that. And I think I'm excited as well. So Drew's on Miz TV, and I genuinely don't know what he's going to say. I mean, are we still doing a slow burn with the heel turn, or are we going to go a little bit quicker now? Like, has it happened? He was conflicted. He didn't know whether to go back or not. He didn't go back. He's kind of made it very clear that he's, starting to transition over to being a heel. Do you pull the trigger on Miz TV, or are you still going to have a conflicted? I don't think you need a conflicted Drew. I don't think the crowd are going to react to someone that's conflicted. I can't see the fans going, don't do it, Drew, or like whatever. I can't see that happening. I can see him just booing him when he comes out. I think the message has already been sent. You didn't help Jay. So I could see boos for Drew on Miz TV. So I wouldn't stay in this conflicted kind of area for too long. So maybe pull the trigger and just go with the heel turn now. Then we've got Sammy and Kevin taking on Damian and Finn. So Sammy and Kevin against Damian and Finn. This is for the tag titles. Little bit throwaway. It's flipping Sammy and Kevin against Judgment Day again. It's for the tag titles. I can't see any way that Sammy and Kevin are getting them back at this stage. It's a bit throwaway in it. It's a little bit It's hard to get excited about this match. It's hard to get excited. And this is the kind of thing that's not doing anyone any favors. I can only hope something dramatic happens in the match. I can only hope that Kevin turns on Sammy, Sammy turns on Kevin, Damian turns on Finn, Finn turns on Damian, the titles do change hands, the arena falls down. I don't know, right? I need something dramatic there, because seeing that match again it's a hard one to get pumped for when we've seen it so many times. There's a Cody promo on Raw as well. Don't quite know what he's going to be talking about. Obviously, he was caught up in the whole Kevin and Jay and Sammy, and it just feels like we're spinning our wheels with Cody. I would love for that promo to be, I'm off to SmackDown or something along those lines. The problem is, if he does that in front of the crowd, they're going to boo, because even though I would imagine those people also watch SmackDown, they are a Raw crowd in that moment. They are there to watch Raw. They are representing Raw. So they are, like, fully signed up members of Raw, if you will. So him announcing that he's going to SmackDown, I could see that getting a little bit of heat from the crowd, actually, because in that moment, like, they're a Raw crowd, and he's basically saying, I'm going off to the other brand, even though there's not really a war between the brands. I think somewhere buried deep inside, there sort of is. We've seen enough Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series. We've seen enough of those to kind of have it just deeply implanted that there's a little bit of something there, even if it's not evident right now. So I think if he was to go onto Raw and do a promo saying I'm off to SmackDown, I could see there being a few jeers in the crowd, unless he adds the caveat, because I'm coming for Roman or something along those lines. I think if you say I'm going to SmackDown, I can see some jeers. They won't outright boo him out the building. It's Cody. They love him. But I could see there not being the strongest reaction, right? Because why would you cheer someone leaving Raw to go to SmackDown, right? But if you add the next stage of it, because I'm coming for you, Roman, or whatever, I'm coming to, finish off the bloodline. I can see that there's still a few, remnants of the bloodline left. I'm coming to knock that house totally down or whatever. That will get the crowd fired up. Then the crowd will be pumped. Then I could see it being very well received. So that's going to be an interesting promo. I don't even know that he's going to say that, though, by the way. He's probably just going to come out and talk about flipping Judgment Day or something again. But we do need to pull the trigger on who's going to SmackDown. Like, we do need to figure this out. We do need to sort out who's going over, because it's been a few weeks now. So that's Raw. Over on NXT, we got a Becky promo. Obviously, she's building towards title defense against Tiffany, so it's going to be based on that. Eddie Thorpe is taking on Dijak in a strap match. We've got a strap match this week, if you haven't seen. So NXT looks like it's going to have quite an exciting contest there. Carmelo and Ilya are doing a contract signing. I really want Ilya to win the title. I really want him to win the title. I don't know that he wins the title, but I really want him to win the title. And then we've got the final of the Heritage Invitational. So this is Butch against Joe Coffey. And Butch against Joe Coffey should be a fun little contest. But who wins? This is a really interesting one. And actually one that I might do as the poll, because I think this actually goes slightly deeper as well. Because I think this touches on a little bit of a problem that people have with NXT at the moment. And that problem is, do you invest in talent that's emerging, or do you go with a bit of main roster star power, right? There's lots of people that have criticized Becky being the champ. Lots of people that have criticized Dominic being the champ. There's lots of people that don't like Baron and Mustafa Ali and all of those that have gone down to NXT from the main roster, because there's a lot of people that just want to see NXT be that developmental brand, bringing through that next wave of talent, and don't want to see the main roster stars down there. We find ourselves now in a situation where we've got Butch and we've got Joe Coffey. The winner of that is going to go on to face Noam Dar at No Mercy for the Heritage Cup. So do you go with Butch winning, and then that means that you've got a little bit more star power on your show? Or do you go with Joe Coffey, who doesn't have the same level of star power, but he is someone that's come through the system. He's clearly someone that WWE liked the look of. He was in NXT UK. He had a decent run over there. He's part of Gallus. He's come over to NXT. He's got himself into the final. So which way do you go? Do you invest in the up-and-comer and give him the opportunity to take on Noam Dar? Or do you go with Butch and just give that No Mercy pay-per-view a bit more star power? So that'll be a really interesting one, because I'm torn, to be honest. I'm torn. I mean, I love Pete Dunne. I'm not a fan of the Butch name, but I love Pete Dunne. So I've got no problem. And Pete Dunne against Noam Dar sounds like a banger to me. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? So it's hard to not want that match. But then I think I look at someone like Joe Coffey, like, how is he going to get onto the card if Pete Dunne takes that spot? Like, Joe Coffey might not make it on. And then are we blocking his development? You know, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. I don't disagree. There's a lot of main roster stars around NXT at the moment. You know, you've got Dominic taking a spot from the North American title picture. You got Becky taking a spot from the women's title picture. You got Butch, who potentially could be the opponent for the Heritage Cup. The other thing you've got as well is that this show is on a Saturday, No Mercy. It's going to be really competitive. Like, you're going to have to make sure that you stack that card to get people to tune in, because you're going up against boxing, you're going up against probably football, you're going up against other sports, and we know the trouble Collision has. So if you want people to tune in to No Mercy, you're going to need to put some star power on it. Obviously, Becky is going to massively help, but it is a rematch. It is a rematch against Tiffany Stratton. It's not quite the same as Becky trying to win it for the first time, you know? So, I don't know, man. That one is very interesting. I'll be very interested to see what you lot think in the poll. And then SmackDown, we've got Bayley against Charlotte. I mean, I am excited for it. I don't quite know why we're getting it. But Charlotte came back. She seems to have a bit of a problem with Damage Control and Bayley. She got involved, Bayley, in that Io Asuka match. Charlotte then hit Bayley. It set this match up right here. I don't know if you saw the backstage exclusive interview with Bayley. Really fun. She was saying, like, why is this woman always got to be around the title? She's already been like 20,000 time champion. And she was like laying into like how often Charlotte has been a champ, how long she gets, like, she's around the title picture. And it was fun. It was one of those kind of fun Bayley promos. It's good. We've got Bobby Lashley going on Grayson Waller. Obviously, we've got a situation there with the Street Profits. That's an interesting situation, because I saw, I didn't get a chance to do the SmackDown Downs because of the fact, the ups and downs, because of the fact that UFC started earlier and that article dropped quite late by What Culture. So there wasn't enough time to do it and get to UFC. But I did still look at it, and one of their downs was the Bobby Street Profits situation. It's too early to have issues there. It's too early to have them kind of falling out. I'm not sure I agree, because I could agree if we'd have changed everything about them. But one of our criticisms is that not loads has changed. They're still coming out with red cups. They've still got the same entrance music. They've still got like pretty much similar ring gear to what they had before. You can tell just by those things that they haven't fully committed to this Bobby vision. You can tell by the fact that they haven't changed the entrance music, the red cups, all that. Their attitude hasn't changed. If their attitude had changed, those things would have changed. So I really like that. I like the detail that we've got there. So for me, this isn't too soon for Bobby to have these problems, because Street Profits haven't changed enough, and the evidence is there to see. So this could be what we use to get all of that changed. If it is, that's clever. It's good. I really like it. if it isn't, and like nothing changes, like they just agree they're going to be more Killer Instinct now, missed opportunity then. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of where we go. I mean, Street Profits are definitely going to still stay with Bobby. Um, I think they like what Bobby is bringing, and they're liking the new energy, but they're just struggling to, like, they are really faces that are being forced to be heels, and they're really struggling to bring out that heel side. So I don't mind it, and I can't wait for that segment. I think that's going to be a really good segment. Certainly, if Bobby said he's been working all week with them and hears the new Street Profits and then brings them out with new music, a new look, no red cups, all of that stuff. Then we've got, and this is interesting as well, Rey Mysterio against Santos Escobar. Every time I watch these, they are basically in love, right? They are basically in love. Rey Mysterio's wife needs to be very concerned because Santos Escobar is coming for Rey, right? I wouldn't be surprised if next Valentine's Day it's Santos and Rey that go out for a meal. They are just so in love with each other. Santos is really in love with Rey. But I saw an interview the other day where Rey was like, I idolized. It is funny. He went, I idolized this man, right? And Santos started laughing. Everyone was laughing because obviously Santos has only really just recently got started going in the past few years. So Rey saying that he used to idolize Santos was strange. But Rey was like, no, let me finish. I used to idolize this man's father, right? And so that was really interesting. He was talking about Santos Escobar's dad, his family, how influential they were. And actually, it turned out to be really, really good. Turned out to be really interesting. So Rey has got a lot of real appreciation for Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar clearly, obviously loves Rey Mysterio. If you're from Mexico, I mean, like, he's just a god, right? So there's a lot of love there. I can't tell if this is going to lead to a split. I think it does, but I don't know if it's going to happen this week. I don't know if this is just them trying to... I can't tell if they're just trying to get across how much they love each other and like really get a close bond, and we're really going to try and do something with these two as a tag team, or Rey's going to really try and help Santos, and we need to make sure this bond is really tight. I can't tell if we're doing it for that reason, or if we're doing it because we're just trying to make it quite intense at the moment so that we can very quickly pull them apart again. I don't know. The thing with wrestling, there are no friends. All friends turn on each other eventually. So I've no doubt these two turn on each other. The question for me is it soon or is it further down the road? Is it like now or is it later? So Rey against Santos this week could be very interesting because I don't know if that ends in a fight after the match or if it ends in hugs. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't tell if they're going to split now or much further down the road. But the fact they keep banging on about how much they respect each other and really like love each other and all this kind of stuff, it makes me think it's sooner than later. It makes me think that it's now. So, but that's what makes that match so interesting. So that's a bit of a rundown of this week. So Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. I do want to jump into the chat. Of course I do. But I need to do the No Mercy predictions. We'll do the No Mercy predictions. We'll then jump into the chat because there's a lot to digest there. There's a lot for us to get our teeth into. So we'll do the No Mercy predictions. Then we'll jump into the chat, get a few thoughts, get a few questions, and then we'll go and do the who should go to AEW thing. We'll save that. I've got the list, actually, of all the people that were released. So I've got them all on screen right now. So we can have a little scan down. I must admit, there's a lot there. Certainly the next in line ones, the NILs, those ones are ones that never quite made it onto TV. They're ones that basically got signed from like tryouts around SummerSlam, I believe. And they've just been in the Performance Center. So some of these may have appeared on TV in a Battle Royal, or may have appeared on TV on NXT Level Up, but never really got going with anything. So we can't really talk too much about them because we just never saw them. Obviously, the ones that don't have any brackets next to, we can easily go down those. And we know plenty about the ones that were from NXT as well. so we can easily talk about those. Trying to pick three there to go over to AEW is a little tricky, and the reason why is because we will come back to it, but I feel like Dolph Ziggler is a given. I feel like Dolph Ziggler, I would imagine everyone would agree he should go to AEW, right? And Mustafa Ali is another one I would think most people would say should go to AEW. Maybe not everyone on that, but I would imagine the majority would say. So if we're trying to pick three, that would mean we've only got one more spot, right? And then all of a sudden, do you go with a female to try and boost the female division? Do you go with another male because you think you could do maybe a tag team with Mustafa, or maybe like you just love Rick Boogs like I do, or you love Riddick Moss? Or do you go with like Babatunde from NXT because he's a big guy, man? Like trying to pick three is going to be a little bit tricky, and that'll be a fun conversation. So we will get back to that one. But what we're going to do is No Mercy predictions just quickly. We're going to blast down the cards. There's only 4 matches, and one of them is, as we said, still not finalized. So Becky Lynch against Tiffany Stratton. For me personally, I think that Becky's going to retain. I think it's a bit too soon to get the title off of her. I understand that really if you did take the belt off her, you've done what you needed to do. Like, she's boosted the rating. She has now been added to the No Mercy card, which is going to boost that show as well. Like, you could take the title off of her and you could say job done, to be honest. I mean, she's given you some amazing weeks of ratings. She's going to massively help the No Mercy show and the appeal of that. So just for that reason alone, you could take the title off of her. But I think that there's more people she wants to work with, and I don't know that there's a story ready for her on the main roster yet. So I think she retains. I think that she wants at least a singles match with Lyra Valkyria. Kiana James seems to be in the picture as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Becky wants to work with someone like Roxanne Perez, who obviously plenty see a lot in. So, yeah, maybe even Blair Davenport. I mean, Blair Davenport had been around for a long, long time on the indie scene, highly trained, someone that I would imagine Becky's got a lot of respect for. So Blair Davenport, Lyra Valkyria, Roxanne Perez, I think there's matches there for Becky. And I would imagine that she would want them. And I don't know that we've got anything quite ready for her at the moment. Maybe as we continue to get closer towards Survivor Series. But I think Survivor Series is like the end of November. So I think we've got plenty of time. We could do another month with Becky down in NXT quite comfortably. So, yeah, I'm going to say Becky retains. That's an Extreme Rules match for the NXT Women's Championship. Then we've got Bron Breakker against Baron Corbin, and this one is really tricky because Bron Breakker is someone that I've got time for. Certainly now he's turned heel. Baron Corbin is someone that I think has been around for a long time, but he's trying to find a new version of himself, trying to find a new gimmick. I mean, Baron Corbin is someone that's got a good size to him. You can use him to put others over, but it doesn't feel like if a gimmick or your presentation is like a suit that you put on, right? You dress yourself up in it. It doesn't feel like Baron has found one that quite has ever fitted right. I mean, like, I think that the Happy Corbin was the most engaging thing he did. And there's a lot of love for the lone wolf kind of early Baron Corbin. But being someone that watched NXT when Baron Corbin was in the first time, I can tell you that it didn't feel like it fitted very well at the time. I think nostalgia is a very powerful weapon. Baron Corbin was someone that just never really did a great deal. He was being used, but nowhere near the title picture. And, there was plenty of people ahead of him in NXT when he was in NXT the first time. He's someone that I think's got his looks quite interesting because he's like 6'8" and he can talk, right? So promo wise, he doesn't get lost. He doesn't stumble on his words. He's got a decent delivery. He's got a bit of a personality about him. That goes a long way. He can wrestle in the ring. Like, his matches are fine. You might not get a 5-star out of him, but you're probably not going to get a 1-star either. Like, it's just going to be 3 stars all the time, but it's consistent. You know what you're getting. His look is tricky, isn't it? Because he hasn't got the most ripped physique in the world, which you would think would really be holding him back. And maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a case that he needs to be really hitting the gym and really getting toned up. And maybe that would unlock like the next stage for his career. Because we know that WWE and Vince in particular likes big, muscular guys. Baron Corbin at 6'8" is big. But he's probably just lacking that definition, you know. I've no doubt he goes to the gym, but there's plenty in WWE that have a better physique than what Baron Corbin does, and I think that's probably something that's just sort of held him back a little bit. As I said, none of those gimmicks kind of felt like they fitted well, but his Happy Corbin gimmick worked. His broke Corbin gimmick, which was connected, obviously worked. But I didn't like I didn't like him with Riddick Moss. I didn't like that phase. I didn't like the stupid jokes and the laughing at jokes that were, you know, cringe. I mean, those segments, they got tired very quick for me. And those segments, I must say, I think they hurt Riddick Moss as well. I don't think they made Riddick Moss. They got him on TV, but they didn't make Riddick Moss. Like, they just sort of made him look a bit cringe as well. Didn't they call him Madcap Moss for a time as well? And it was all a bit all just cringe, man. It's all bad, really bad. So we're trying to reinvent Baron Corbin, and we've got Bron Breakker, who's one for the future. So who the flip wins that match? Who wins that match? Again, a lot of people would say Bron Breakker is the emerging talent, but Baron Corbin needs reinventing and needs momentum as well. It's a tricky one. That it's a tricky one. I think you go. Baron Corbin. The reason why I say that is because I think Baron can win and then afterwards say you're not quite ready yet, kid, or something like that. Like, Bron has got time. Bron can go down some wrong roads. But Baron can't. He's been down too many. Like, at what point do you just run out of chances? Like, I really think Baron needs this win more than Bron. If Bron loses, it ain't going to affect anything. Bron can just be upset with himself and take it out on someone, and it's fine. You know, he could lose for the next month, get called up, and people will be throwing babies in the air because it's Bron, and he's on the main roster, and it's super exciting. Bron can take losses. It's fine. It feels like we're just waiting anyway. It feels like his time in NXT is done. He's been champ for ages. Now he's turned heel. We're exploring being a heel, but, you know, if the main roster needs him, he's there and he's ready to call up. And as soon as he gets called up, that's kind of like a reset anyway. So I think Baron needs it more. So I'm going to lean to Baron getting it, but I want it to be a good performance. I want it to be like good presentation. I want to see like a gimmick that fits for Baron Corbin. That's going to be quite an interesting match. There's a few this week, actually. There's a few segments and matches that look quite interesting this week, and I'd say that's definitely one. Oh, man, and you want to talk about another one? Carmelo Hayes against Ilya Dragunov. Do you know what? I know I've just gone on quite a bit about Bron and Baron. Carmelo and Ilya, this is an easy conversation. Ilya wins. Ilya, to me, is the best wrestler in the world right now. He is my favorite wrestler to watch. There is not a wrestler that I see that entertains me at the moment as much as Ilya Dragunov. I've got a real soft spot for Sami Zayn. I love Sami Zayn. He hits me in a different way. I think that he's got a fun personality when given the right creative, and he hasn't had the right creative for a long time. So Sami is definitely someone that I've got an affection for. But Ilya Dragunov, he is so intense. When you watch an Ilya match, you know that you are potentially about to watch the match of the show, match of the week, match of the month, maybe match of the year. I mean, his match with Wesley was absolutely fantastic. It was absolutely incredible. And that is just, you know, a long list of incredible matches that he's been having. It's a long list. I mean, his match against Dijak earlier in the year was absolutely incredible. This guy is just an incredible match machine. He's intense. Like, he really throws it in. I love his moveset. I still don't know what it's called, But when the person's down and he just throws that bang shot to the back of the head, the side of the head as they're laying down, I've said, there's so many people, when someone is in that position, they'll do a splash on their back or something, roll them over, try and get the pin. Or they'll maybe, I don't know, drop an elbow or whatever. Like the move that he does is so much more intense, so much more hard hitting. It's you feel it. I feel it. Like bang. You wanna be able to get lost in wrestling. I do. I want to be able to watch a match, and the wrestling that I enjoy the most, and it's no secret, I've said it many times, is the wrestling that I watch, and I really feel like I'm watching a fight. And there's a voice in the back of your head saying this is scripted, all that, of course, that's always there. You know what it is, but you want to be able to believe in what you're seeing, and so much of wrestling these days is so OTT. It's so let's just do this because it's going to look cool on social media. Like all those multi-person spots, a power bomb while someone does a suplex and all this kind of stuff, right? All those jumping off the top of a cage and all these kind of bits and bobs. What I appreciate is someone going in there with intensity that really is bringing a fight. Eddie Kingston, Gunther, Ilya Dragunov. That to me is what I look for, and that to me is what I enjoy the most. I've said before, wrestling is like music. I can sit and I can watch the high flying lucha style, and there'll be bits in there that I appreciate. And I can watch like mat based technical wrestling, catchers catch can, the kind of stuff that you see Charlie Dempsey doing, and the kind of stuff that a lot of the British guys tend to bring. And I can get something from that as well. It's, I suppose, in a way, like listening to country, listening to folk, but you're still going to have a genre that you really enjoy. You're still going to have a genre that really speaks to you. And I don't quite know what you would call it. I suppose, in a way, it's like a strong style. It's kind of like a strong style, but it's just intensity. It's intense. It's just you feel like they really are fighting, like they really want to get a win, you know? It's important that you don't forget the other facets, though, of like selling when you're injured, making sure your striking looks really good. Like, as I said, that believability factor. This is where, for me, Moxley can fall short. Moxley's the kind of person I should love because he brings intensity. But for me, he also doesn't sell very well, and his striking doesn't look very good. And it's become a meme now that he'll bleed within the first few moments of a match. So when he does bleed, it doesn't mean anything. He's devalued him getting color. If other people get color, then it's a talking point, becomes significant. If Moxley gets color, it's Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? It's another Dynamite. So for me, like, Moxley is someone that I should enjoy, but he leans too much into the deathmatch stuff for me and doesn't sell, and the psychology is not quite right, and his striking's not quite right. But he's been presented as a massive, massive star, and that is definitely something that the fans have gravitated and appreciated. So yeah, we're not here to bash Moxley, but just trying to explain why I enjoy the kind of wrestling I enjoy and the kind of people that I enjoy watching. That would be your Eddie Kingston, it would be your Ilya Dragunov, it would be your Gunther. So I hope he wins. I hope he wins the NXT Championship. I really do. Nothing against Carmella Hayes. I think he's a great talent. But Ilya is one of my absolute favorites right now. And then the final one, Noam Dar against either Butch or Joe. So if we jump just quickly over and see where we are with the poll. So we've had nearly 150 votes. 82% of people said that Butch is the one that should win. 18% of people says that it should be Joe Coffey. So people want Butch. The people want what the people want, and they want Butch to win it. If that is Butch against Noam Dar, that is going to be an incredible match. That's basically Pete Dunne against Noam Dar, and I honestly would love to see it. To be honest, Noam Dar against Joe Coffey would be fine. I saw Pete Dunne against Joe Coffey as the main event of NXT UK TakeOver in Blackpool, and it was a great match. So both of them are capable of having a great match. And actually, Butch against Joe Coffey is still Pete Dunne, Joe Coffey. As I said, I saw that as the main event of a TakeOver, NXT UK TakeOver. We're getting it just on NXT this week. should be a great match. Whoever goes on to face Noam Dar should be a great match. What I love about Noam Dar is we know how much that Heritage Cup means to him. He's got a great personality. He's one of the funniest people in NXT. He's been a breath of fresh air since he came in. I like Metaphor as well. We haven't seen much of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. I'm surprised we haven't been using them in women's tag matches. I don't know if there's like an injury or something there. So I'm surprised we haven't been doing more with Metaphor. I'm surprised they haven't been engaging in a feud with some people and then setting up like 8-person tag matches. I'm surprised we haven't been getting any of that. But then saying that, I think that Noam is dealing with an injury, hence why he's not been wrestling that much. But I'm surprised we haven't been using the other members. So I would imagine Noam will retain against Butch. I don't think Butch will win the Heritage Cup. I think, if anything, he'll just be there to boost that card. But yeah, you know, it doesn't look a bad card. It really doesn't. Becky Lynch against Tiffany Stratton. You know, fair play. It's Becky. I mean, you can't argue. Bron Breakker against Baron Corbin, as we said, really interesting for, you know, a few reasons. Carmella against Delia features one of my favorite wrestlers right now. Noam Dar against either Butch or Joe Coffey. It's going to bang. It's going to be really good. Noam Dar's last Heritage Cup match against, was it Nathan Frazier or Dragon Lee? Dragon Lee. His last one that he had on Premium Live event. Brilliant match. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of praise for it. And there's no reason to not think he can't do it again. So, yeah, that's a quick little breakdown. What I will do is I will do one of those. I will do one of those, but I am going to do it once we've got past Tuesday, and I'll do a finalized one and like try and like do the whole card and try and get through it a bit quicker. But that's what's great about these streams is that we can really flesh the conversation out, not having to worry about racing to a show or not have to worry about like, oh, we've only got so much time. I mean, I know I always aim for an hour, but I go into it knowing it's going to be an hour and a half at least. So, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, you know, we can jump into the chat, see what is on people's minds. And as I said, I will try and get No Mercy predictions onto the channel midweek. Dark Angel said to me, watching an Elia match is like watching a basketball game without any dunks or a baseball game with no home runs. I would say the whole thing's a dunk. For me, it's like watching a baseball game with only home runs. Some of his move sets and the execution of those moves, like for me, it's you're watching something that's just so good from the start, like the psychology, the way the match builds, the way that he executes those moves. Like he goes for like big stuff off the top as well. Like I'm thinking big superplexes, big power moves. You know, those moments where he's like screaming out at his opponent. But when he screams, like you know, he's got veins like popping out of his neck, and he's like so in the match, and he can't help but bring the people along with him as well. So his selling, I've said before, his selling is some of the best in the business. The way that he's like down and he's like hurting, and the reason why I think it's so good, and I could be completely wrong, but I think it's because he does get hurt each match. I think that he is so intense that he actually does wear himself out and he wears himself down. And I don't understand how you can be that intense and be screaming out like that and throwing in these big shots, hitting these big power moves and not have it wear you down. So I think his selling is so good because he's gassed and because he is feeling the effects of the match. There's a realness to him that's kind of woven throughout his match and throughout his matches, and an intensity that's woven throughout his matches that, to me, as I said, just from start to finish, I'm just absolutely captivated. Just absolutely captivated. To me, like, it's not like I'm waiting for some sort of big thing to happen at the end. The whole thing is just a treat. Big Time said, Smackdown leaving Fox is crazy news. WWE juiced up the numbers for them, bent over backwards to please them, made it an A show. They got first dibs on draft picks just to let WWE walk. Hasib said, I don't know if you saw the Boogs comments, but they're really interesting. saying that Vince removal killed his career. I haven't seen that. I haven't. So I don't know if he's come out and actually spoke about it. I did see that Rick Boogs had said that there was some politic thing, backstage politics, which he'll go into, backstage political power play. But I haven't seen any. I mean, yeah, this is the quote I've seen. So is this in a video that he's done or something? Because I've seen this quote. It says, "Let me tell you, it's been an interesting time in my life with my job in WWE being terminated due to backstage political power play. At least that's my opinion of it. But now is not the time to talk about that. I will get into detail when the time is right." That's the only quote I've seen, so I don't know as to what it is that he's like referring to there. Backstage political power play. Um, I mean, I don't get Rick Boogs' release. I don't understand it. Rick Boogs is someone that ticked all the boxes. The only thing that we are not privy to, I don't know what his attitude is like as a person. I don't know what his timekeeping is like. I don't know if he's like really politically motivated and very outspoken backstage and might have been upset in the locker room. That could have been happening. I'm not sure. It could have been that they'd been showing him a load of stuff, asking him to do a load of stuff, and he just hadn't been doing it. You know, we want to see this from you, see that from you. He's been going out there, not doing what they wanted. And so the progress just wasn't being shown. It's very hard for us as viewers to kind of score him on those things because we're not privy to those things. So I would be very interested to know exactly what the issue was there, because you can't tell me he didn't have the look. He was absolutely ripped, right? He was absolutely jacked. I mean, actually showing off his power was one of the things I thought they did quite well. There was a few times where he was doing like going down, bending all the way down, and then he would stand back up again and then go into like a gorilla press slam. And there was lots of different power moves that he was doing to show his strength off. And he was massive. The dude was massive. We know he's got a personality as well. I mean, he's someone that can talk. He's someone that likes to have fun. He for the longest time was introducing Nakamura to the ring and kind of interacting back and forth with the crowds. I remember him being Eric, I think he was called Bergenhausen or something down in NXT. And we didn't use him much, but he used to come out and he used to do like air guitar and he'd be like writhing around in the ring. And like people at Full Sail would be like really into it with him and he'd be like really going for it. And like the crowd just really took to him. He had a personality, he had charisma, he had the ability to connect with a crowd, and he had the look. Now, what we didn't see loads of was his in-ring, and maybe that was a limitation. But we know that when it comes to WWE, in-ring is just not the be-all, end-all. As long as you can have passable matches, as long as your matches don't stink the place out and they're just tick a few boxes, right? And to be honest, the fact that he could do those power moves was a big box that was ticked, in my opinion, right? The fact that he was able to show off that strength was a big box that, as we said, got ticked. So I think that he is someone that I'm really struggling to get my head around. I can only put it down to the fact that there was something going on backstage. I can only put it's either his wrestling wasn't kicking on, right, and it was just so far below what they needed that they looked at it and went, "We will never. This guy is basically the next Giant Gonzalez, right? We will never. He's the next Great Khali. We will never be able to get this guy to the level we need." That could have been it, or it's Summit backstage. So he seems to say and suggest that it was a backstage political power play. At least that's my opinion. So yeah, I'm very interested to find out as to what that is, because it didn't and doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why we would let him go. I tagged you in a tweet about the new thing that Rick Booger's mentioned. Okay. Is this something that's come out today? I can say with 100% certainty the removal of Vince killed my career. Okay. Why? I wonder why. Why? I mean, Vince likes big guys, likes powerful guys, but Triple H isn't against those. Triple H wouldn't have looked at Rick Boogs and gone, ugh, don't want that guy. I wonder what it was. I mean, wonder what it was. I wonder what. I'd love to know more of it. I don't know. I mean, I can't look at Triple H and say that Triple H would look at Rick Boogs and just not see potential. I mean, all you could see was potential with Rick Boogs. Great size. I know the stuff that he was doing was bad, right? Don't confuse the stuff that he was doing with bad. Um don't confuse the stuff that he was doing with, like, playing Nakamura to the ring and all that stuff as being a reflection of what he could have done. That was bad creative. I hated that. I loved him in what I saw of him in NXT. I was excited to see more of him. But the stuff where he was with Nakamura, I mean, it was horrific. I mean, I would actually argue that the stuff Vince had him doing was horrific. So I would argue that Vince was killing his career as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know what more to that. It would just suggest that Vince saw something in him and maybe Triple H didn't. Or maybe Triple H wanted a fresh new start, wanted to send a message, and so wanted to kind of go with his own people. He had his own people from NXT that he wanted to get with. And Rick Boogs just maybe wasn't one of those. Rick Boogs, in all fairness, didn't do much in NXT. Maybe there'd been some bad feelings between them, and as soon as Vince went, the protection went, all of a sudden he's at Triple H's mercy. Maybe that wasn't the strongest relationship. But what I would say is that if Rick Boogs didn't have a strong relationship with Triple H, the writing would be on the wall at some point anyway, because Triple H had enough influence and was, head of creative and all that kind of stuff. And even when he wasn't head of creative, he still had access to Vince. So yeah, interesting. Cal said Riddick Moss had potential, but Triple H called him right down after Vince left. Terry said, I hope WWE don't drop the ball with Johnny Gargano. I don't think they will drop the ball with Johnny, right? I don't think they'll drop the ball with Johnny. I think, though, that it's a little tricky because I think Johnny's had a few injuries. And so I think it's a little tricky to kind of get going with Johnny. I think Johnny needs, he needs to be healthy. He needs Tommaso healthy. Like, getting everyone healthy has been a little bit of a problem. Like Indy Hartwell, we haven't been able to really move with her because she had an injury right at the end of her NXT time. And then she got brought up, and so we've been waiting for her to recover. But the problem is, as soon as people have come back from injury, it's not a case that, like, right, Johnny's free, let's go, because you've got 20 other stories that you're telling that you've already invested in, that you're halfway through, that you've got to try and finish those off before you then start telling a Johnny story or start telling a DIY story or start doing whatever, right? So it's a little bit like you're waiting for a bus, right? You're waiting for a bus, and let's say that you, for some reason get distracted whilst the bus is like on its way, and you miss the bus. You've got to wait for the next bus, and the next bus might be, tomorrow. It's kind of like that, Johnny. There would have been an opportunity to have done something with him, and we were starting to do stuff, but then he got injured, so he missed his opportunity. Well, the next opportunity's, it's a little bit further down the road, unfortunately. I think sometimes as fans we can think that things are just like, right, Johnny's back, let's go, and it can just be like, yeah, now we're going to do this. But what are you doing with them? Like, you can't just throw them out there and go, right, do this segment. We'll figure it out going forward. Like, I think certainly under Triple H, they are trying to map a lot of things out now. They're trying to really plan as to where some of these things are going. And that should result in richer stories, better stories, because there should be more story arcs. It should be that the show is a lot more satisfying because we've actually got like a beginning, a middle, and an end to some of these stories. Whereas before, there would be a few things that just get thrown out there and dropped, and it was a little bit more of the Wild West. I don't think Triple H is trying to do that. So this is why, yeah, we're just not seeing like Tommaso. Well, at least Tommaso's back now, going after Gunther. But this is why like Johnny, Candice, people along those lines. There's plenty of people going like, "Where's Dexter Loomis?" and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, you can't put everyone on TV. You can't put everyone on TV, and you've got to wait for that next window, that next opportunity. And even then, you've got to hope that creative have factored you in, because it might be that a current story has kind of led to another story, and that's the direction they want to go in, and they're more interested in that than going with like Johnny and going with Dexter and doing like a brand new story. It's hard, man. But if you pick up an injury, it's hard because all of a sudden you find yourself kind of going to the back of the queue, unless you're a big name, unless you're already a big established name. Like, you know, Roman can obviously get injured and come back, and creative will have something for Roman. But if you're Johnny Gargano, who's just starting out, you're Johnny Gargano that hasn't really done much on the main roster, it's hard. Yeah. Is there any more news on Carrion's faction? No. He did the video over a month ago and nothing. I hope it's still being worked on and hasn't been dropped. No news, nothing. We haven't even been seeing Carrion, have we? I don't even think Carrion's. Trying to think if we've seen him on the past couple of Smackdowns. So no news there whatsoever. Big Time said Riddick Moss tweeted similar response saying, "I know many thought my career went downhill once Paul Levesque took over." Well, there's a little bit of shaders. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I mean, you've only got so much TV time. You've only got so many people you can push, right? So there's a chance if you can bring back some people like he did, people that there's plenty of people that got brought back. People wanted to see get brought back. Bray Wyatt, right? Bray Wyatt got brought back. Karrion Kross, Dexter Loomis, right? When these people got brought back, there wasn't moans and groans. There was excitement. Like Kairi Sane is being brought back, and there's excitement over that, right? Nia Jax got brought back. Maybe not so much excitement over that. But, these people got brought back, and they are exciting, and the fans are excited to see them. But their TV time is taking TV time away from other people, right? It's the same as my argument with celebrities. When celebrities come in, their TV time is taking TV time away from actual wrestlers. Like, we could have done someone else against Damian Priest in that street fight. Could have been a different wrestler that took on Damian Priest. Could have been someone else that took on Ricochet at SummerSlam in the opening match, right? A wrestler, yeah? And this ain't me just having a pop at celebrities. I'm just making the observation that if you bring people back, or if you use celebrities, like, all of that is taking TV time away from other wrestlers. And so you are going to have people that were being used that now longer are being used. And yeah, I'd say Riddick Moss is in that conversation. I don't know that Rick Boogs is really in that conversation. I mean, like, was he being used much under Vince compared to under Triple H? I mean, other than playing guitar for Nakamura, we never really saw much of him on Raw or anything. He picked up an injury and then was gone for ages, and then came back and just did a few things, and then he was gone again. I don't know. I don't know if Rick Boogs really quite falls into that. What might have happened, though, is Vince might have had a word with Rick Boogs and said, "Look, I've got big plans for you." And so, you hang your hope on that. And, it never came off because obviously Vince ended up going. And Triple H didn't have big plans for him. So it could be that this was going to happen for me, but it never did. It never happened, and now I'm a bit, upset about it. Certainly someone like Riddick, I think that Madcap was being used more under Vince than he was under Triple H. So I could understand an axe being grinded there. But what I would say is, as fans, we have to remember that, well, there's reasons as to why it happened. It's not just that Triple H has come in and gone, right, I ain't using that guy, right, I don't like him. It's that the TV time was being given to other people. And it was that, maybe Triple H just did not see what he wanted to see in some of those performers. So it's going to be interesting to see why they think they got released. And certainly if they think that it's something to do with like a power play between Vince and Triple H, that's going to be an interesting story if that emerges this week. But I think it is important just to remember that there are lots of reasons as to why those things would happen. And one of those reasons is that Triple H will have other superstars that he's got in mind for those kind of key roles. Are you expecting Dom to retain against Dragon Lee? I think he could do an open challenge for the North American title at No Mercy. Oh, yeah, that's another one on Raw, isn't it? Dominic against Dragon Lee. Yeah, I am expecting him to retain because I think they'll want to put Dominic on the show at No Mercy. So him against Dragon Lee, I'd imagine there'll be some cheating. I think it's just a bit of a showcase for Dragon Lee on Raw. I don't think the title changes hands there, although now that Mustafa Ali's not around, it maybe does present the opportunity to have Dragon Lee pick up the title, pick up the victory, and then go on to defend that title against someone at No Mercy. No, we're not locked in now to having Dominic have to defend at No Mercy because the match he was going to have has fallen through. But because Dominic was going to be at No Mercy, that would suggest that the plans are there for him to be there. Like the hotel is booked, the transport's booked, the flights are booked, blah, 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 right? So it would suggest that Dominic is going to be at No Mercy. So you either have the title change on Monday and do the rematch at No Mercy, or more likely Dominic gets past Dragon Lee and then goes on to face someone else. Or do another match against Dragon Lee at No Mercy. But I don't think I would do the rematch with Dragon Lee because he's already got one match on Raw, which is really high profile. So I don't think you need to do another one, like a bit further, a few days later at the pay-per-view as well. I'd much rather see Dominic against someone else. Who that person's going to be, though, I don't know. One name that comes to mind would be Tyler Bates. I wouldn't hate Dominic Mysterio against Tyler Bate for the North American Championship. I wouldn't hate that at all. I think that could be interesting. We can't do like Von Wagner because obviously we're doing a whole injury angle with him. I'm trying to think of other big names that have kind of that have been used recently. Dijak's obviously in a story with Eddie, so can't see anything happening there. Unless, say, Dijak wins and then confronts Dominic, but that would be heel against heel, and it wouldn't make much sense. You could do Nathan Frazier. That's not a bad shout. You could do Axiom, but he's a bit cold, Axiom. Don't know. That's not one that massively excites me. The one that would excite me more would be Tyler Bate. That would excite me more. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, yes, I expect Dominic to get past Dragon Lee. Wisp said, Riddick Moss definitely could have been Summer, and with Emma as his valet, I think there was an opportunity. Cal said Carlito signed, but hasn't returned to TV yet. That's a good shout. Bunkers said Cody got attacked by Omos on a live event, so could be Omos next for Cody. Cody got attacked by Omos on a live event. Could be Omos next for Cody. God, I hope not. Retro C said, here's a question. If this Cross Scarlet faction is still happening, who would you have in it? If the Cross Scarlet faction is happening, who would we have in it? Well, I don't know if that would be an opportunity to call some people up from NXT. I don't know if that's something that we would look at. It may have been that was something we were looking at and it's not come off and that's why it's not happened. It could also be that there's been some injuries, or it could just be that the timing's not quite right. There could be a few factors as to why we haven't pulled the trigger on that story. So what we're looking at is we're looking at the SmackDown roster. And what we're looking for is we're looking for people that are not really attached to anything. Now, at the moment, we've got Ashanti the Adonis, who is in Hit Row, but Hit Row doesn't really exist now because Top Dollar went. And I don't know if you can have a Hit Row with just Ashanti and B-Fab, because what are they going to do? We don't really do many mixed tag matches. So, like, I don't know what's happening there, to be honest. So we've got something to try and fix there as well. I don't know that Ashanti going in with Carrion feels right. And I don't think B-Fab going in with Carrion feels right because really you've already got a female. I don't think you need another unless you want to do a women's tag team of B-Fab and Scarlett. Which I wouldn't hate. I wouldn't hate that, but I don't know that Scarlett really is looking to be a wrestler. She's more a manager valet, isn't she? So I don't think she's looking to be a wrestler. So yeah, it's tricky to know what to do with those two. So we'll say not them. We'll say not them. You've got Cameron Grimes, who's a little bit lost at the moment, but would Cameron Grimes work in a group with it'd be a drastic character change for Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes is just a fun, to the moon. I don't know. I struggle a little bit with Cameron Grimes. I've never fully got on board with him. I thought there was a few little moments he had in NXT, like his feud with LA Knight over the $1 Million Championship, where he was doing vignettes. And I think, wasn't he like LA Knight's butler for a time because he lost a match? Like, there was some fun stuff that we were doing there. But by and large, he's just a baby face that I think might find it a bit difficult on the main roster. I don't see him going into that group, though. Cruz del Toro, no. Elton Prince, no. Grayson Waller, no. Jimmy Uso, no. Joaquin Wilde, no. Carl Anderson, no. Kit Wilson, no. LA Knight, no. Luke Gallows, no. Montez Ford, no. Rey Mysterio, no. Rich Holland, no. Santos Escobar, no. Soesco, no. Sheamus, no. There's no one there. There's no one on SmackDown. Everyone's already in a group. Everyone is already in a group, which must mean then we've got to turn our attention to NXT. And find some people to call up from NXT. I'll tell you one name that I'm just looking at here that might be not a bad fit, and that could be Boa. Boa might not be a bad fit. Boa was in Tian Sha, and we haven't been seeing Boa, but he hasn't been released. He's still under contract. He's someone that would provide something a little bit different, a bit mysterious. Have him stay quiet. He's paints his face and white with black markings on, and he was kind of hanging around like Xia Li. I don't know if I'd bring Xia Li into that group, but then saying that, I'm not sure what brand she's on anyway. But Boa is someone that I could see being, because he kind of is a bit mysterious anyway. He's been doing some random stuff. There was some magical supernatural stuff that he was doing, which sucked. Well, I thought it sucked. So I wouldn't do that, but I think you could put him with Carrion. So I don't mind that name. Don't mind Boa. I don't think you would use this for Bron Breakker. I don't think you'd use it for Tony or Stax. Dante Chen, we haven't been seeing much of him at all. Damon Kemp. I like Damon Kemp, but I don't think he fits into that mold. You could say no. Eddie Thorpe, no. Idris Nofi, no. Gable Steveson, that's a whole separate conversation. Jagger Reed is still listed here, on the WWE website. Dyad, I thought were done. Maybe I could see them. I don't think they would be too bad, grizzled young veterans, but I think there were reports that they had done. They are gone. The Dyad, grizzled young veterans, Rip Fowler, Jagger Reed from the Schism. I think there's reports that they have gone. But I wouldn't mind them at all. I think they're a great team, and just like how Roman's got a great team backing him up, or did have with the Usos. I think Carrion having a great team like the Dyads, grizzled young veterans. Obviously, you would tweak their gimmick a little bit. You wouldn't have them quite so schismy. You would tweak it a little bit, but I think you could make it work. But yeah, I don't mind Boa as well. That would be okay. Josh Briggs and Jensen, if you went in a different direction, they're big lads. Could maybe do something there, but doesn't feel like it fits brilliantly. Gallus that's not really again, big lads, powerful, would look kind of quite impressive standing behind Carrion. But again, they've got a pretty strong gimmick of their own, haven't they, Gallus? And it's not really the same kind of thing that we're looking for with Carrion. Malik Blade, I don't see that. Oro Mensah, I don't see that. Obafemi, we haven't been seeing much of Obafemi. You could call up Obafemi. We've seen that happen plenty of times. We didn't see much of Braun Strowman before he joined the Wyatt family. We didn't see much of Rick Boogs before he got called up. Like, there's a few times where people will be called up, and we hadn't seen a great deal of them down in NXT. Obafemi is one. I don't know where he is, though, with his in-ring and his promos and all of that. What I do know is that NXT has got plenty of big, impressive-looking guys that would look good standing behind Carrion. Like, it would look like Carrion's got some serious backup. So I like Boa because of the mystery and the mystique. I like Grizzled Young Veterans because I think we've seen them be football hooligans, and we've seen them be like in the dyad and schism and like all that kind of cult stuff. So they've shown they can be adaptable and they're credible and they can go. But I think they've been released. Obafemi is just he's a big guy, strong guy. He would look kind of cool. Hank and Tank as well, not a bad shout, but I feel like they're very much learning at the moment. Trick Williams would be good as well. Trick Williams is someone, but again, I think they've got big plans for Trick Williams. So yeah, it's difficult. There's a few names there, but no one that you go, that's the one. That's the one. I mean, I wouldn't use the Creeds because I think the Creeds have got a very strong gimmick as well, and I don't think you would put them in the background of a Carrion because, first of all, they'd have to turn heel, and they'd have to kind of leave their wrestling singlet kind of, do you know what I mean? Background. They're very much that. They're very much going to the dojo, all about training, all about proper freestyle wrestling. Don't know that really fits with what Carrion's looking to try and start. Carrion's, it's dark, it's mysterious, it's, do you know what I mean? Scarlett's got a tarot cards. This is why I like the Boa one. I think Boa fits in it very well. And as I said, Grizzled Young Veterans would fit very well because they've just been in the schism. But yeah, some of those you wouldn't be able to do, unfortunately. When is Via coming to Raw? Via's in Indashir, isn't he? And Indashir, I believe they were used on that Superstar Spectacle thing. So I just don't think they've got anything for Indashir on Raw at the moment. But they did use them for the India show. Paul said Carmelo Hayes and Jade Cargill will join Bobby and the Profits, and AOP will join Cross. AOP's a good shout. AOP's a really good shout. That's another group that's... have they actually properly signed? Like they are fully signed? Well, look. Again, you know, that fits perfectly because big guys does feel like he needs some... yeah, they are. So they are properly, fully signed up. Got the article here. Authors of Pain have re-signed after being unexpectedly released in 2020. With WWE hiring freeze now lifted, it's expected that they will be coming back to NXT. Well, maybe not. This article here on Give Me Sport seems to suggest that NXT may be a landing space for them, but I'm not getting the impression that they're very confident on that. So, yeah, I don't mind Authors of Pain at all going with Carrion. I think that would be a very good fit. We saw Oba for one match, and then he went off TV, said Cal. Steven said, Dolph Ziggler just earned an endorsement from a 16-time world champ, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. There is some chance that Dolph could be on his way to the NWA. Right, well, look, let's get into this bit, because, I mean, we're already nearly an hour and a half into the stream. I said we were going to do this. We won't spend long on this. I think it's just a fun little conversation to have. And that conversation is, which of these three should go to AEW, or which of these three should AEW try and pick up? Now, I would be amazed if AEW don't get Dolph. We said that earlier. I mean, I feel like Dolph has got so much experience. He's got name power. I know he won't be able to use the Dolph name, but, people still know what he looks like. He's been in WWE a long time. I mean, coming through with Spirit Squads. He's a former world champion, someone that we feel has been held back. And, there's a great wrestler there. But again, there's only so much TV time. Like, you can't say we need to get Rick Boogs on the show. We need to get Riddick Moss on the show. We need to get Dolph Ziggler on the show. Like, okay, well then how are you going to get all the people that are already on the show? So it's difficult. It is difficult. So Dolph Ziggler is a great talent. Same as Mustafa Ali, great talent. And there's a lot of great talent that's on this list, unfortunately. But Dolph is the biggest name that was released, the one that went on and achieved the most. I've got to think they're going to find a landing spot for him. So I've got to put Dolph down as the first one that I think goes to AEW. And then, like, the fact his brother's there as well just makes you go, it's a no-brainer. The other ones are a bit tricky. Now, Elias, I don't think Elias, right? Elias is someone that I think can talk, but I never found him to be the most charismatic. And now the Ezekiel thing wore really thin very quick for me. I thought it was a fun idea at first, but we didn't really develop it. We did get the picture of his family in the hospital, which I thought was good, but that came like so long after the thing had flipping started that it just felt a bit too late. We did get that week where Elias and Ezekiel were both on screen at the same time as well. So again, there was a little bit there, but other than that, it was just weeks and weeks and weeks of, that's Elias. Kevin Owens losing his mind. I think as well, Kevin Owens losing his mind over something that, what does it matter? Didn't matter. He was the only one that cared. I suppose it just provided a little bit of fun for a short time, and that's all it was. But, we could never really get going with Elias. Elias released a few, like, EPs and stuff like that, did a few shows. I sort of feel like Elias had a place, but his place was, to get beaten on house shows. And if we wanted to bring, like, The Rock back, then having Elias in ring and having The Rock interrupt him, because everyone interrupted Elias. That was his thing. People always were interrupting him. That he was perfect for that as well. Bringing people back, bringing people in, bringing back returns, and who's going to interrupt him this week. So I think there was a place for him on the cards. I suppose the fact we don't do as many house shows now since the pandemic means that it's just not needed. We can easily fill the house shows with superstars and not need really an Elias and the kind of stuff that he brings. Do AEW need Elias? I would say no. I'd say Elias is very sports entertainment. I think AEW had been sort of quite clear that they were not trying to do that, although they have clearly been doing a lot of that. You only have to look at the Roderick Strong stuff going on at the moment, which is, quite sports entertainment. I think Elias is very sports entertainment, and I think that don't know that it's a good fit for AEW, so I'd say no on that. Aaliyah is interesting because I think there's something there. I've seen loads of improvement from her. I don't know that she's essential, though, and I think if you are only going to pick three, I don't think she would make the cut, unfortunately. Rick Boogs is the one in it for me. It's the one. I'd really struggling here to not pick Rick Boogs. I don't want this to just be Dolph, Mustafa Ali, and Rick Boogs, but I'm struggling for it not to be that. If I was to pick, if I had a promotion, I had to pick between Rick Boogs and Riddick Moss, I'm taking Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs, for me, showed more personality, seemed to be bigger, seemed to be stronger. I think that for me, I think I could get more out of Rick Boogs than I could out of Riddick Moss. I do agree that Riddick with Emma definitely helped Riddick's presentation, but I think if you're AEW and you can only take three, two of them ain't going to be Riddick Moss and Emma, is it? So you're probably going to have to take Riddick Moss on his own, and I don't think he was as good without Emma. I think Emma kind of brought out a different side of him. And you maybe could have done something with her by his side, but we didn't. And I don't think AEW will capitalize on it either, unfortunately. So, yeah, Riddick, it's a tricky one. There'll be plenty of people saying, nah, you should go with Riddick Moss. There was potential there. And I agree there was. I agree. He had a good size. He showed some personality with the Baron Corbin stuff, as much as I didn't appreciate it. The Rick Boogs playing Nakamura to the ring, I didn't appreciate that either. But I saw more with Boogs, certainly down in NXT from the bits I'd seen from him down there. And there was a few... Do you remember that one segment? There's one segment that comes to mind for Boogs as well, where he's talking to Elias, and Elias is like, look, you got to push yourself. Get a match sorted with that guy over there. So Boogs is like, okay. He goes over, he has a word with Bronson Reed, and he comes back and he goes, I took your advice. I got the match sorted. Goes, you'll be facing him next week. He went, no, I didn't want the match. I didn't want the match. You're meant to have the match. You sought the match for you, not for me. And then Bronson walks over and he's like, I understand you got a problem. And it sets up a match between Bronson and Elias. It was well done. It was a fun little segment. It was well written. I know he didn't come up with it, but I thought he did it really well. And it gave a glimpse as to what you could have done with Rick Boogs. That sort of, he's strong, doesn't quite get like what, he's just always like that little step behind. So Elias was like, go and push yourself, go and get a match. And so he goes over, gets the match sorted, but sorts it for Elias. Like that was, for me, was a perfect kind of window as to what we could have done with Rick Boogs. A little bit like how Riddle was like, bruh, like, he wasn't like totally up to speed with everything that was going on. I think you could have done something a little bit similar, not exactly the same with Rick Boogs, where he was always just a little off, just a little bit not quite getting it, Someone says something and he's just like, you can see it's taking him a moment to try and work it out. And I think you could have got some real humor out of that. I think you could have got some real fun out of that with people just saying stuff and him just not quite getting it. And you can see him trying to like work it out and like being confused by it. Add in the fact that he's, got the power and everything. Boogs is one that I would definitely be looking at. So Ziggler, Boogs, Staff Rally. What we're not doing though is we're not taking Dana. We're not taking Aaliyah. We're not taking Emma. We're not taking Ulisa. Ulisa, I don't think would have made it. I'm looking really at the middle column and the end column. There's not really much there, to be honest. I mean, Matt Riddle's an interesting conversation. Matt Riddle is one that's I would guess if you want to just go star power, you go Dolph Mustafa Riddle. But do you take Riddle with the problems that he's got? And seemingly he's got problems. I mean, there was allegations that he had been like cheating on his wife, which I think were proven true. And I think allegations of sexual assault, but I don't want to say that in case it's completely wrong. I'm going to put Riddle. I'm going to put sexual assault and see if anything comes. There was allegation. Well, he alleged about sexual assault, didn't he? But I'm sure there was allegations against him from a former female wrestler that turned out to be a wrestler that he'd been having in yeah, there. So Candy Cartwright drops sexual assault lawsuit against Matt Riddle. So they had an affair. It ended badly. Beyond that, we don't actually know what the truth is, what actually happened. But there was a sexual assault allegation made against him. Only an allegation. Only an allegation. I'm a big believer in innocent till proven guilty. But she alleged sexual assault against him. That needed to be investigated, but the case got dropped. So there was a sexual assault case put against him that did end up being dropped. So, in my mind, he's innocent. But, it's something that happened, and there was an affair there as well. We know that he went to rehab, and we know that he had issues with drugs and drug addiction and ended up going to rehab last year. Then we've got this case of him being intoxicated, alleged intoxicated, and the whole sexual assault against the security guard situation. I mean, if you're AEW, do you really want to have that come into your company? Do you really want to have that as a part of your locker room? I've got to think you don't. I've got to think you don't. And I've got to think that means that Matt Riddle isn't going to be in the running. I think that he could go to the Indies and get booked. I think that if he turns his life around and shows over a period of time that there's no drama, no like drug problems, maybe AEW would look at him a little bit further down the road. But for them to go and get him and bring him in straight away, I think would be, and certainly with like what had happened with the sexual assault allegations, and I think, AEW are trying to make sure that their image is restored after taking a few knocks with fights backstage and a few times, and like unprofessionalism, plenty of unprofessionalism, that's been associated with AEW. I'm thinking like Hangman, you know, in his promos, CM Punk in his promos, Jack Perry shouting down the camera, it's real glass, deal with it, Crimea River. So I think like if you've got like a bit of a question mark around the professionalism of your roster and of your company, bringing in Matt Riddle is probably not the wisest thing to do. Shanky, I don't think you're going to get much there. Mace, Mansoor, I really like them actually. I really like them, but again, if I've got to be strict in bringing in three, my honest opinion is if I'm Tony Khan, I'm bringing in Dolph, I'm bringing in Rick Boogs. They're my top two, right? The one that I'm really debating on is Mustafa Ali. That's the one I'm debating on because I don't think he carries much star power. I think there is a great wrestler there. I think he can have some great matches, but do I have a better option? Is there someone if I really can just only get three, have I got a better option than Mustafa Ali? Is there a gem here, like say Dabba-Kato, Commander Aziz, that I should be going for instead than a Mustafa Ali? Should I be going with Mansoor, who, you know, showed that he can do some comedy stuff and do it really well? Should I be going with Mace, who has got a good look to him, actually? Got a good size, looks good. Looks good. You could, you know, again, we didn't see much of him in ring, but what we did see of him, he looked good. I mean, Mansoor, Marseille, I actually thought they did the best they could with that Maximum Male Model stuff. And I don't know if you ever saw their YouTube videos, but they really did try to make it as entertaining as possible. They put out some really good, like really funny YouTube videos of them, like Maximum Male Models, just like hanging out. And there was some good stuff there. Do you boost the women's division with Dana and Emma and Aaliyah? It's hard. I don't know that any of those are like essential. I don't know that any of those are going to give you the women's division the boost that you're looking for. I really think I'm looking at Dolph, Boogs, and I think it might be between Dabba-Kato and Mustafa Ali for me. I think it might be between those two. I want to know what people are saying though, where people's thoughts are. MK said, I know AEW isn't great, but it's easier for a top star like him to win a world title or anything than in WWE. Riddle versus Mike Bailey, who has got the better feet, says Bonkers. Dolph Ziggler, Emma could be going to AEW roster in an exchange for Jade Cargill, said Ramit. Anna, shout out to you. I hope you are well. Impact. Yeah, so Impact is interesting. I think Emma to Impact. She was, I believe, there before, and I think she would fit in that division well. So Emma to Impact, that's a no-brainer. Matt Riddle to Impact Impact could do with his star power. Impact could do with him, and that might be a good place. So he doesn't fall too far down the ladder. He still goes to a company where he is going to be held responsible. If he's got wellness policy violations, it's going to show. I think that if he goes to Impact, I think then AEW can keep an eye on that. And if he's done well for a period of time, 6 months, whatever, then they could make a move for him. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of, we need to know that you're good before you bring you in, because you are a potential problem and to see you're all right. So actually, if we do 3 to AEW and 3 to Impact, Dolph, Rick Boogs, and this is hard, man. This is really hard. I am finding myself saying Dabba-Kato. I think I'm going to go Dabba-Kato. I think it's hard to get big guys. It's hard to find big guys. There's not many out there. They've searched and searched and searched the indie scene for some big guys. They couldn't find many. And actually, if you think about the AEW landscape, you do have the likes of Brian Cage. You do have the likes of Wardlow, but we don't see much of him. You do have the likes of a Satnam Singh, but he hardly wrestles. Like, it's not a land of giants. So I actually think for AEW to get someone like Dabba-Kato, I think would add something to their roster. And you could use him in the tag division, in the trios division, in a faction. You know, he could be someone that joins the House of Black as a new member. It doesn't have to be that he has to be a solo star. So I think Dolph Boogs, Dabba-Kato to AEW. Then for Impact, Emma, Riddick Moss, because then maybe you could do something with those guys, and Riddle. But the problem you've got then is Mustafa Ali has really fallen, hasn't he? I mean, Riddick Moss and Emma, I mean, I don't know if you'd get away as counting them as one. Riddick Moss, Emma as one, Mustafa Ali and Matt Riddle to Impact. And then AEW get Dolph Ziggler, the star power, Rick Boogs, the potential, and Dabba-Kato, the size. So it ticks a few different boxes. I mean, you could easily sit here and go AEW, Dolph Ziggler, Matt Riddle, Mustafa Ali, the three biggest stars done. They need star power, have that star power, right? You could easily go that way. But my argument would be, how much star power does Mustafa Ali actually have? I mean, he's been down in NXT for a time. Like, how much star power is actually there? Matt Riddle's got star power. Dolph Ziggler's got star power. Dolph Ziggler's a no-brainer, but Matt Riddle's a problem. Like, are you going to take the chance on Matt Riddle? Are you going to take the chance? What you could do is you could take Matt Riddle and then you could loan him out to Impact and see kind of how it goes. And so if he is a problem, is Impact's problem, but you have got him and you know you're getting him back in 6 months' time. Like, you could maybe look at doing something like that. Riddle's difficult. Riddle's difficult. Emma against Saraya, the old rivalry, says Ramit. Dana Brooke to Mission Pro Wrestling. She will meet the teenage sensation, Izzy, says Steven. Triple H needs to know what he does better work. Triple H needs to know what he does better work. Ali is a joke, says Vegeta. Really? You don't rate him? Wow. Wisp said, Non, he's good in ring and talks okay, but never had a match or feud or promo to break through. Do you see Dana just coming to the conclusion wrestling isn't for her and retires? I don't know where she fits in, with all due respect. I think she could go to Impact, but again, the problem she's got is there's a list here of people that Impact could be interested in, one of them being Emma. If you take Emma, you might be interested in Riddick Moss. And as we said, Matt Riddle may not go to AEW because he could be a problem. Mustafa Ali may not go to AEW because they might find 3 others or whatever. Well, who knows? Maybe AEW only take Dolph. I don't know how many people they're going to take, you know? It's hard to know. I've got to think Dolph is the one that everyone's going to want. But maybe they take 1, maybe they take 2, maybe they take 3, maybe they take 4. It's hard to know how many they're going to look to pick up. So without knowing how many AEW are interested in or how many Impact are interested in, I think Dana could add to the women's division in Impact. I think she could add to the women's division. She does have some name value, and there is value to that. In-ring wise, she's so-so, right? Watching what she was doing down in NXT, she, gave a lot of herself, but I think you could see that she just wasn't. She hadn't been in ring a lot. She'd been used on house shows. Probably, I don't even know if she'd been used on house shows all that often. In fact, what we can do is just quickly look at Cage Match. I do like going to Cage Match. We go to Cage Match, which is a website. Click on wrestlers, and then just search for Dana Brooke. It should give us a rundown of her matches. So we should be able to see how many matches she's had recently. So actually in 2023, she's had 1, 2, 3, 1. It's 2022. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. She's had 22 matches this year. 22 matches. One of them was in the Royal Rumble, so probably doesn't count. One of them was a Battle Royal in NXT, so probably doesn't count. Another one was on Raw in the championship turmoil, tag team turmoil thing. It was actually Dana and Tegan as a tag team, which I don't think they were even in that match very long. That whole match only took 11 minutes 55, and there was several teams in it, so that probably doesn't count. So all in all, you probably I can't remember how many matches, 20 odd matches, take 3 away. That's not load of matches, is it? She had a lot more in 2022 though. Got to say, last year she was, but then she was being used at the start of the year in the 24/7 title stuff. Actually, that 24 title stuff kind of went on for a little while. Looks like Nikki beat Dana for the 24/7 title in November. But again, these are 24/7 title flipping defenses. I mean, they're never going to be, you're never going to really learn a great deal from those, are you? Most of them probably were just roll-ups. Again, how much are you really getting from that? What I will say, though, is even though she's only wrestled like 20 odd times this year, there's still plenty of activity there, even if it isn't the strongest activity. I think that she's got some star power. I think she's got experience. She's been a part of the biggest company. I think there's definitely so much she could bring to the Impact women's locker room. I would be interested to bring her in if I was Impact and maybe bring her in on a short deal. I think you could potentially do something with. But if not, then yeah, maybe she would end up going to like a Mission Pro Wrestling or something like that. It's hard to know if she would call it quits because I don't know what she enjoys. I don't know if she enjoys being a wrestler and this is so much she enjoys doing, or is it that she enjoyed the fame of being with WWE? Some of these people might decide that wrestling's not for them and just remove themselves from like AEW or anything. Like it might just be that like they've got other passions, other things that they want to pursue. Certainly when we're talking about these next in line people, for them it may seem like wrestling might have reached the end of the road now. But what I would say is that if you do get released, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the road. It really comes down to if you're going to dig deep and if you're going to, still fight for it. If you're going to fight for it and you're going to, try and still put in a performance, then you could still get somewhere. You could land, go into the indies, make a name for yourself, find a new gimmick, get back to a company like Impact, get to AEW, maybe get onto NXT's radar again. This doesn't have to be the end of the road. We've seen plenty of people that got cut that found their way back to WWE, and that could be possible for a few names here as well. That's why maybe you just need to be a little bit careful about what you're saying at the moment, like Rick Boogs. And you need to just maybe think about a long-term future and potentially going back, because that door, it's not closed. It's just closed momentarily. Have we touched on Smackdown moving back to USA and what that means for Raw and NXT? We've touched on it on streams. Yeah. So Raw and NXT is expected to leave USA Network. We don't expect. I heard that apparently there was sources that said that there was plenty of interest in Raw. There's also them having Smackdown and paying so much for it as well, 280 odd million for a year over 5 years. I don't think USA Network can do that and then pay for Raw and pay for NXT. So I think we are looking at Raw and NXT leaving. But there are rumors of it going to like a potential streaming service, or apparently there's a few players that have come in, but I don't think the names of those players have been released. Well, not all of them. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see as to how that lands, but I'm not expecting it to stay on USA. Steven said Bayley might return to NXT upon breakup of Damage Control. In talks with Sean, bringing in at some point. Kim said, I think Dolph is an easy AEW. Shelton should go to AEW or even back to WWE in a different role. Mustafa Ali might be brought to AEW by Danielson because Brian loves him. That's true. He might convince Tony to get Mustafa Ali because you are right. I think there is some affection there that Daniel Bryan had. I think Daniel Bryan just likes people that really do prioritize in-ring work. You know, Daniel Bryan had a soft spot for like Drew Gulak, but there's a difference between someone being good in ring and being good for WWE or being good for AEW. Like, I would imagine that Bryan Danielson would have a lot of affection for Charlie Dempsey, and would have a lot of affection for Timothy Thatcher. You know, those kind of proper in-ring wrestlers, your old school proper get in there. Let's reversals, you know, different holds. But some of that just doesn't play well to the modern audience because, you know, the modern audience is being more and more conditioned to look for those big spots are what people are looking for now. And back in the day, you used to get like, you know, something in a match, maybe a couple of spots in a match. Now we're seeing matches that's just, well, spot fests is the term, isn't it? Where it's just spot after spot after spot after spot after spot. It doesn't build to them. You just constantly get them. And, you know, that is something which I think Daniel is kind of not really, not that he's not on board with, but it's not what he looks for. And I think he likes that heartier, meatier kind of in-ring holds, wearing your opponent down, like all of that kind of old school style wrestling. I think Mustafa Ali has got that, but I think Mustafa Ali knows as well that he's got to be bringing the crowd along with him. And I think that's a challenge, really. I think it's a challenge in this day and age to be able to be a proper wrestler that does proper psychology and builds a match and, like, you know, can do the holds, but cannot alienate the crowd and just have them sat there. So much wrestling around. You can watch a different wrestling show like every night of the week. There's so much wrestling. There's so much trying to get your attention. It's really hard to slow things down and like wear someone down and do it over a period of time, say 15 minutes or whatever, and keep an audience engaged like that in 2023 is a real challenge. That is a real difficult thing to do. It's a real difficult thing to do. So I think I can understand why Danielson's got an appreciation of people like Mustafa Ali, because Mustafa Ali, I think, is kind of trying. He's in that kind of area. He's trying to do that sort of thing. He's trying to have proper wrestling matches, but he can like drop in those moments of brilliance. You know, he's got a few nice little moves that he does that just, you know, keeps the crowd active, and he knows to bring them along for the journey as well. So yeah, I mean, look, Mustafa Ali is a great talent, a talent that we could definitely have got more out of. It's just that I don't know. It's difficult because like he is someone that you could definitely take, you could definitely work with, you could have a gimmick, you could do some fun stuff with. But I don't know where his ceiling is. I don't know how far it is he's going to be able to actually like get to. I don't know if even Mustafa Ali doing the stuff that he wants to do is going to result in AEW having a big star. You know, I don't know that Mustafa Ali is the next Kenny Omega. I don't know that he's going to go on to become an AEW world champion. Maybe you don't bring him in for that. Maybe you just bring him in because he's got experience, he's solid, and he's a steady hand. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that even if he was to have the right gimmick that worked for him and be given TV time, my feeling about Mustafa Ali is that there is a ceiling there. There is like something that would just stop him getting to that main event picture. You could put him in the main event, but it would never feel like he's going to win the title. That would be what would be holding me back with Mustafa Ali, is that if I bring him in, I think I'm getting a solid mid-carder. I think I'm getting someone that's, dare I say, a bit like Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong, who can go in the ring, and he's got loads of experience. But I don't know that I can see Roderick Strong being a future AEW world champion. Just like how Roderick Strong was not an NXT world champion or even close to being an NXT world champion. And I do just worry that Mustafa Ali might be in that same sort of bracket. Big Time said, USA, the home for Raw for over 30 fans. Fans are habitual with viewing habits and they tune into USA Network. Lapsed viewers were find Raw after WrestleMania. Well, no, that's what WWE have got to weigh up, isn't it? WWE need to make a decision as to the money they're going to get extra. Is it going to be worth the moving? Is it going to be worth the disruption? There will be a figure that does make it worth moving. And if they go to like a streaming platform like Amazon Prime, what are you going to do to promote me? Amazon has got crazy reach. Now, we know that other things like football, I'm told, went over to a streaming platform and it didn't work, right? So my understanding is that it didn't work when football moved and went over there. So that's definitely something that we need to be aware of. But if I'm WWE, I am definitely sitting in a meeting and I'm definitely listening to what Amazon have got to say. So if they're going to say, right, we're going to pay you 100 million more a year than what you're getting already for 5 years, right? So at the moment, I don't know what Raw's getting, but we'll pay you 100 million more, right? Because the word on the street was that WWE wanted SmackDown to go for 150% more than what it went for, than what it was. So it was 200. They were looking for 450 a year. So I know an extra 100 million might sound crazy, but I am basing it on something. So they unfortunately didn't get that, but they did get an extra 80 million a year for Raw. They did get an extra 80 million, but an extra 100 for SmackDown. So an extra 100 million for Raw isn't preposterous, right? It's not mental because SmackDown's getting an extra 80 million a year. So Raw will give you 100 million, right? And we will promote you in this way. We will make sure that when you're live, it's very clear. Like here, we'll send emails out. We can do this with apps. We can do this. We can do this. We'll have advertising on this platform. Blah 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 blah. Predictions are that we would expect ratings to be around this. Like they will have like an idea in this presentation of different things. I would listen to that. I'd be very interested without being in that room and knowing exactly what they're presenting. There has to come a point where you go, the disruption will be worth it. The disruption of leaving USA Network, there will be a monetary value to that disruption that can be compensated. And plans for promoting on a platform as big as Amazon would be quite tempting. So yeah, it's this is the decision that has to be made, isn't it? It's business. Have to make the decision as to what is the right move for the business. There'll be plenty of people saying stick with USA Network, but without being in the room and without seeing the options that they're having to choose between, I've no doubt WWE will make the decision they feel is the best decision for them. They could get it wrong, but I've no doubt on that. They'll make the best decision that's the best one for them. They've got shareholders to answer to because the announcement of SmackDown getting 1.4 back to cable caused a 20% drop in TKO stock. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything, though, does it? Stock can drop, but what does it mean? Unless you're thinking of selling your shares, it doesn't matter. Like nothing. Like the stock could plummet 90%. It doesn't mean anything. Like the only time that would be a problem is when it comes for if you've got shares, like Vince has shares and he wants to sell them. Well, because of the bad news and the bad perception, the value of his shares are going to be next to nothing compared to what they could have been. But unless you're looking to sell your shares, doesn't matter. Sometimes you might want to take that short term little hit to the stock. And you might want to because in the long term, it's going to be, you think it'll be better for your company. So I don't think that's really much of a consideration. This was a whole interesting argument being made about Man United. Man United have just spent ages trying to find buyers for Manchester United. They've come to the end of that process and it doesn't look like they're actually now going to sell. And their stock plummeted because everyone was waiting for the sale to go through. And so their stock went down. But, plenty of people have said that they're not going to care about that because, again, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything unless it comes to, actually selling your shares. TKO valued the merger at 21 billion. It was around 18 billion. Now it's 14 billion. Which doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's just made up. What does that mean? What does it mean? Doesn't mean anything. So they have bought the company from WWE. The company has been purchased. Like the sale has already gone through. So the price has been arranged and agreed and paid for, and it's done. So like it's done. The sale's gone through. Everything's done. The fee has been agreed. Everything's sorted. Whatever the share price does now is, do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. If it goes up, if it goes down, who cares? Because the thing is, if you do a deal now with the streaming services and the shares go down, right? If it turns out that that was the right deal to do, future, you get proven it was right because your ratings are good. And the business is making more money because they're paying more for the show, and the ratings are good, and the house shows are good. Like the business is like bubbling, and it proves that that was the right move to make. Your share price bounces back. So it might dip now, but it'll just bounce back further down the road. So this is what share prices do: go up and down, fluctuate all the time. This is why people play the stock market, because different news and different developments in the business world make the share price fluctuate. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. It might go down now, but it'll bounce back or go up later. The problem will be if it never bounces back up. That'll be when you've got a problem. But if WWE have made the decision that they think is the right decision for them, it doesn't really matter how the markets react, because it'll just correct itself further down the road. But the market as a whole has been down. It will go back up, says Chads. 1.5x to 1.8x was baked into the stock price. People want to make money, not lose money. That's why it's bad. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't. I think we're getting a bit stuck here. Who is meant to care? Like, if you've got shares, you can care, but that's the risk. Do you know what I mean? That's the risk. Like, if you buy shares, you are playing a game. The game is that you're hoping that your shares go up, right? But they will go down. It's like the crypto market, like the crypto's all down. It may recover, right? So if your shares in WWE go down, my advice would be don't sell. Don't sell, because it probably will bounce back. It'll go back up again, and then sell when it bounces back. Like, we're just talking about what the stock market is. Like, this is what the stock market does. It fluctuates. It goes up and down on, like, lots of different variables, lots of different, like, government budgets, different companies and strategies that they're taking, so on, so on, so on. The idea that, like, the WWE stock price has gone down and it's like all panic stations, that's just not what's happening. That's not the truth. Like, they will make the decision that is better for them in the long term, right? If you take some short-term hits, and one of those might be your stock price drops, fine. Because if in the long term it proves that you made the right decision, your stock price recovers and may even go on to higher levels because you made the right decision at the time. The idea that you wouldn't make this move because you're worried that your stock price is going to drop is ridiculous, right? It's ludicrous. That wouldn't happen. That's not something that's going to be factored in, because everyone knows that if your long term is secure, that stock price will recover, will bounce back, will go to potentially greater heights. So for me, it's not a problem. They have to make what they think is the right decision, and if they think going to a streaming platform is the right decision, is going to be better for them in the long term, then they will obviously have weighed that up a lot more than what we can, because they'll have privy to a lot more information than what we will have access to, and they'll be getting certain guarantees about promotion, and they'll have certain projections. Maybe it doesn't come off, and maybe it turns out to be the wrong idea, and then maybe that share price does recover, but not to the height that it was before. Well, then yes, that's when that was the wrong decision. But you wouldn't not make that decision just because the share price is going to go down, because the market doesn't respond well to it. Market doesn't respond well to lots of different things, but it does recover. Retro C said the landscape has changed in terms of TV, and that's why I could see Raw ending up on Amazon. I think that's interesting because obviously we're seeing declining ratings. We're seeing declining ratings on terrestrial normal television. I mean, like, how overall views on YouTube, I have no idea. Right, that number might be somewhere. Like YouTube might have that number. Like they know the video views for each video. They may have a daily video, like daily watch number. Like this is how many views YouTubers have. I wonder if we can find that. How many people watch YouTube each day? How many views does YouTube get a day? YouTube has over 122 million active users. 1 billion hours of content is watched around the world each day. So we know that 1 billion hours of content is watched every day on YouTube. And there is some facts on YouTube as well. YouTube is the second most visited site after Google. There's 1 billion hours of video watched each day. The most watched video has more than 10 billion views. And it is Despacito with Daddy Yankee. Baby Shark, actually, I think might have overtook it now by the looks of it. YouTube app has been installed 10 billion times. The point that I'm getting at, right? The point that I'm getting at is we know that ratings on network TV is going down. I don't know what the numbers for YouTube are. Like if we were to see a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly graph that shows us views on YouTube each day, each week, each month, what would that graph look like? Are we seeing a decline there as well? Watch time on Amazon Prime, what's that like? You know, if we had that information of how many hours of content is viewed on Amazon Prime by day, week, month, is the graph going up? Is the graph staying level? Is the graph going down? Like, what does that look like? That would be something that you would want to see because we know what the graph looks like on TV and on normal TV stations. But I don't know what the graph looks like for YouTube. I don't know what the graph looks like for Amazon Prime. And that, you know, listen, the reason why network TV is in decline is because people have got so many more options now of how to consume the content. So that's why we're seeing decline there. But how have things changed for YouTube? You know, as TikTok took a lot of that market, has YouTube declined since TikTok exploded? Are we seeing it like a bit more difficult now on Amazon Prime compared to because there's so many other platforms? I don't know, but that is something that would definitely be of interest because if you're WWE, you know kind of where the views are going on USA Network. They've been going in that direction for quite a while. I mean, Raw recently doing a 1.3, and you can say it's because the show's not strong enough, but we saw plenty of shows in the past that weren't strong enough, and they were doing much better ratings than 1.3. So where are these people? Maybe we do need to kind of get in front of those people a little bit more with this programming. Although you can say that WWE's social media presence is very, very strong. Very, very strong. So they could already be making moves to try and get in front of people anyway. But yeah, it's a very interesting conversation about where they should land. Wrestle with Andy said Daze coin has dropped 20%. Well, to be honest, you was an idiot to invest in it in the first place. It's your own fault. I knew it was a scam from the start. I knew it was a scam. Daze Smackdown on USA in 2019 was available in 94 million homes. In 2023, it's 69. Still another calendar year. WWE is making a lot of money, but they will pay the price in popularity later on. Terry said, will we ever see a WWE and AEW show a one-time thing? I don't know if you can never say never, but I feel pretty close to no, as I'm probably ever going to get. I mean, I don't think it's something that we're going to see. I'm not expecting WWE and AEW to put on a show because WWE and AEW don't like each other. WWE see AEW as the enemy and vice versa. So why would WWE want to promote AEW? Why would they want to do that? What is in it for WWE? because they can put on a show like SummerSlam, WrestleMania that'll be just as big, if not bigger, than what that show would be. There's plenty. All they're doing is they're introducing their fans that don't watch AEW to AEW, which, you know, that's like Pepsi getting all their followers to, you know, be introduced to Coke. Look how great Coke is. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? So this is why, for me, unless there's going to be like, unless WWE buy AEW, because I can't see AEW buying WWE, certainly not now that it's just been bought by Endeavor. So unless Tony just goes, do you know what, I'm done, puts AEW on the market, just wants to make some money and get out and thank everyone for the incredible journey, and WWE pick it up, then you might see something like that. But other than that, I can't see it. Enzo might have burned too many bridges, but he needs to stay out of trouble. Triple H hates AEW, said Lawrence. The only reason payment shop was because someone chose the bank card. Even to stream taking its makes channels XRP go up. If they have a nerve to bring Nia Jax back, who says they can't bring him back? He would need to stay out of trouble, says Venom. Maybe Cass don't want to work with Enzo, and Enzo was the talk of the locker room. Yeah, I don't see Enzo coming back. I don't think he won many friends. I think it was different with Nia. I don't think Nia really fell out with like Triple H or Vince or any of the higher ups. So I don't think there was like a problem on that front. I think they just did everything they kind of could do with her. And so she ended up like getting cut. Now that, you know, we can start recruiting again, we seemingly have brought her back. I think I don't mind it. I've said before, I think that you've got someone there that's got a good size. I think that she was injuring a lot of people that were smaller than her. And I think that you need to put her in there with people that are bigger. You need to put her in there with people that are stronger, people that can cope. I mean, it's you know, it's a bit like putting in flipping Ricochet in with Brock Lesnar. Like, you know, if Brock's gonna throw Roman around, that's one thing. If he's gonna chuck Ricochet around, like, it could be something completely different. So I'm not saying that she was like faultless, right? She clearly was rough around the edges, to say the least. But I do also think that the presentation was wrong, the music was wrong, the way that we were booking her was wrong, the fact that people we were putting her in there with was wrong. I think it's one, if you want to put her in there with a smaller jobber and have a chucker jobber around, I think that's one thing. But putting her in there with people like Kairi Sane, who's not the biggest of girls, like, I don't really know what you get from that. I don't really know what we get out of that. I want to see Nia in there with your Rheas, your Raquels. I want to see her in there with like some of these bigger girls. I want to see her in there with a Charlotte who can certainly hold her own. I want to see her in there with those people. So Nia coming back, I think, is very different to Enzo coming back, because I don't think Enzo made many friends. I don't think Enzo was very popular. I think Enzo burnt a lot of bridges, was very outspoken. I heard that they even kicked him out the locker room and he was like having to get dressed and changed in the hallway. Like, that's how much he fell out with people. So, and he's been out a long time as well. Enzo's been away from the company quite a while, so I haven't heard any rumors of even a potential return for Enzo. But yeah, and that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one to see him like come back in. Yeah, and as you say, even AEW haven't picked him up. AEW could have picked him up any point over the past few years. I mean, Enzo's been out of the business, out of WWE for quite a while. AEW could have come in and picked him up, but even they didn't fancy it. So I think there is a bit of a reputation there. But WWE should bring back Aaliyah, Emma, Elias, and Dolph Ziggler as producers. Goat said, I don't because I like Charlotte and the girls. Smackdown, going back to USA, doesn't seem like there were many bidders out hungry for WWE. Why USA not keep Raw but want Smackdown? Well, I think because, again, without knowing what the offers are, it seems like there might be a lot of people after the 3-hour Raw. I mean, you could always take SmackDown to 3 hours. So, I mean, I don't see why that would be a problem, but you might have to pay more to get a 3-hour SmackDown. But the word on the street is that there's a lot of people in for Raw and NXT. I don't know if they come as a bundle. I don't know if they've put them two together. I don't know what their strategy is. But as you said, I don't know that there was loads of competition for SmackDown. Like I said the other week, where was Fox? Why did Fox not make more of an effort to try and keep SmackDown? Like ratings seem to be okay, consistent around 2.2. Did they just deem it just wasn't worth it? I don't know. Why didn't they? I don't know why they didn't make a bigger play. I've got to think if Fox had come in with the same number, I've got to think that Fox would have held on to SmackDown. But the word on the street is that there is some competition for Raw and NXT. And obviously, you would look at the numbers and you would question as to why. But sometimes it's not about the numbers, like how high the numbers are. It's about like how well they're doing in the space they're doing. So, for example, I don't know what Fox's ratings are like. And I don't know that 2.2 million or 2.2 is good, because that's on one of the main channels that I believe is in all homes. Everyone gets Fox. So, for them to have 2.2 million, like compared to the other shows, it might not have been that great for the money that was paid. It might be that just was below what it might have been that to justify the amount of money they're paying on it, it needed to be 2.5 to 2.8 consistently. And it was 2.2. So it just didn't quite work out, right? Whereas Raw is on USA Network that's in less homes. And maybe compared to the other shows on that network, Raw was doing a lot better. And so even though Raw is 1.7, 1.8 on average, a lower number, it's on a smaller network. And compared to the other shows, they have been seen as a better performance. And so that's why Raw might be generating more competition compared to SmackDown that's got bigger numbers. So yeah, I think that it came down to competition. I think it came down to money as well. I mean, I think if USA had the money, I think USA kind of strike me as having a good relationship with WWE. They clearly want to still have WWE on their network. I think if USA had the money, I think they would be very interested to have all three. I think they'd have Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. But I don't think they have got the money to do that. And so they've gone all in and got SmackDown. And it seems like Raw is very, very competitive for the rights. So where it ends up, we don't know. Bo Ray Cho Win said Fox is owned by Disney and Disney is losing money. Survivor Series 2014 was Dolph's best performance. Love that match. Jim said WWE consistently does 3-hour programs which fill a big slot in the scheduling. That's true. That's true. Nia could chuck me around anytime, says Stanton. Chad says Fox is putting a lot of money into Big Ten football. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted out because of that. Apparently, Fox wasn't getting enough advertisers and making money off SmackDown because wrestling carries a bad stigma. Advertisers don't see wrestling fans buying their products. That's interesting. She didn't hurt her, says Vegeta. Yeah, there is some confusion there. And to be honest, I don't know the answer. So I don't know if she did actually hurt Rhea and Raquel. I don't know. It could just be that this is a way to get Rhea a little bit of time away. Like, it's just some scheduled time off. And I genuinely don't know. I know that Stevie Richards did a video talking about like why and how Nia injured Rhea, but I don't know that she did. I know that Michael Cole said that Rhea and Raquel had picked up an injury, but that could easily be kayfabe and story. So I don't actually know if there was any injury that was caused there. So I don't know. This is a part of the problem is that, on social media and on like YouTube and everything, if you talk convincingly enough about something, like people will buy it. I mean, like, if I say that she injured her, definitely, I saw a report, she definitely injured her. Like, there's a good chance people will just believe that. Even though I might not have seen a report, even though she might not have injured her, even though it might be that everyone's fine on a beach, drinking cocktails, living la vida loca. So, it's hard for Nia. She's got that stigma against her, and there could have been an injury there. She could have, I think it is wild that she's doing the bonsai drop, because that is a move which, I mean, it's hard to see how you can protect an opponent with that move. That is a move that, I mean, I'm sure Yokozuna definitely hurt people with that move. And I mean, certainly when you saw what he was doing to some of the jobbers, you saw some of the bonsai drops Yokozuna did on like network TV. Even the ones against like just normal names look bad, but there's some where he proper lays it in, man. There is no way it didn't hurt. No way. There's no way. You can see how much weight. You can see that he's holding nothing back as he drops down on these people. It's a move it's a wild move to give to Nia, to be honest. It is a wild decision to give her the bonsai drop. I don't know it's a decision that I would take. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the truth is on that. I genuinely don't know if she did cause any injury there or not. I do think it's a wild move to give her, though. I do think it's a wild move to give her. I mean, you've got to say that's WWE not helping themselves there. Because if you've got someone who has caused injury in the past, why would you give them the bonsai drop? Why would you go? Do you know what we should have Nia do? What? The bonsai drop? Are you sure? Are you sure that's what Nia should do? Of all the things I was thinking Nia should do, I'm not sure that's the one I was thinking about, to be honest. It's not what I was thinking. It's not what I was thinking. I was thinking change her music. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking bonsai drop. So, yeah, I know that Stevie did a video on it, but I haven't seen like a report to say that she genuinely did injure them. Deonna Purrazzo's deal in December, I think she could come to AEW, or WWE says bonkers. On Prime Video, if Raw viewers feel like the product is getting boring, they can easily cancel subscription like Netflix anytime. Yeah, all of that will be taken into account, buds. I mean, this is a decision they've got. WWE have got to decide what the right move is for them, right? You've got people who are executives that are paid just to make that decision, that are going to look at all the analytics, going to look at all the numbers. They're going to be in conversation. You're talking super high level, right? They are going to be very aware as to the pitfalls, the risks, but the rewards as well. And they're going to have to make a decision. And I've got no doubt the decision they make is the one that they genuinely believe is going to be right for WWE. Is going to be the right move for them. So, yeah, if people don't like it, they could unsubscribe. If people are used to going to USA, they might not find it. But how about all the people that don't normally watch it on USA Network, that discover it because Prime are promoting it through the roof? And so a load of people discover it and start watching for the first time. Like, there will be numbers that talk about that as well. So all these pros and cons will be weighed up, and then WWE will have to decide what the right way forward is. With the options that were on the table for SmackDown, they decided that going to USA was the right move. So it'll be very, very interesting to see, of all the options that are on the table for Raw and NXT, what is the one that they've decided is the right move. Yokozuna made Austin poop himself with a body slam. There's no doubt that Yoko injured people with that bonsai. I know, man. It was brutal. It was brutal. Right. Amazingly, we have done it again. So first week that we did this, we were around for an hour and a half. And I was like, man, I need to get this down to an hour. Second week that we did this, we were around for an hour and 50 minutes. And I was like, man, I need to get this down to an hour. Now we've done 2 hours and a half. And I'm going to say, man, we need to get this down to an hour. So it's getting longer and longer and longer here. It's getting longer and longer and longer. But so we do need to look to wrap things up, because I'm not looking to hold you guys hostage. It was just what we've done. Preview the week that's coming. get our teeth into some conversations, talk about the released wrestlers, who could go where, who would we look to go to AEW, who would we look to go to Impact, talk about some of the news. As we said, No Mercy predictions as well. Kind of touch on those things. We've absolutely boxed all of that off, and I really appreciate people joining us. Don't forget to click on the link if you haven't already, because there is a little questionnaire there where you can actually vote on, do you like this or do you like that? Do you prefer this? Do you prefer that? Kind of, you can go down that questionnaire and select which is your favorite. I'm still trying to get this data into videos. The problem I've got is my week is pretty set up. Like, I know what to do at what time each day, and I'm struggling to fit in this new content. So bear with me. I am working on it. I am trying to fit it in. I've got 2 surveys that I've already got. They're saved. The data's not going anywhere. I've got it all saved. So I am still using it, but I just need to get around to going with it. So this will be exactly the same as well. So if you click on that document, you can get voting away, and it will feature in a video, little short thing in the future. So with that being said, we are done. I really appreciate people stopping by and sharing their thoughts. We are back tomorrow with Raw. We are back on Tuesday with NXT. Back on Wednesday with Dynamite. I think we're doing something on the members on Thursday. We are. We've got Smackdown. Then we've got NXT No Mercy. Then I think it's Wrestle Dream. I mean, we didn't even do the predictions there. Maybe we could do Wrestle Dream predictions during the AEW stream. So we've got a busy weekend, I believe, coming up. So lots of streams on the way. Really appreciate the support as always. And have a great weekend wherever you are. Thanks for watching.